All right, we're live. Been a long time. It's been 2 weeks. It's about 2 weeks since the last show. Hold on, just doing the usual, letting people know, the situation. Yeah, guys, it's been a while. I apologize. I apologize. Genuinely, I do apologize. It is, you know, been a little overbooked recently. A lot of new clients coming in, a lot of renewals from old clients, and then I have all the back end stuff with the new site, which launching next week, 100%. We're just in the finishing touches right now. But the result is that I was just getting burned out, guys. Burned out, and really just did not have. I like literally didn't even have the time slots, because if I had finished everything that I had to do, all my stuff for the day, then something else would come up, something with family maybe I had to deal with. So it was just getting to be a little out of control. So it is a problem with yours truly to try to squeeze things in when probably shouldn't. But anyway, we're here now. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. We got some wine. It's the weekend. Having a good time. And we got some fun wines today. So we are now moving into Austria. And so we're going to be doing a lot of this grape right here, which is Gruner Veltliner. We're going to go to some of the special areas in the coming shows. But this is one how I like to do verticals of the same producer just to kind of get a different sense of things. So this company, Gruber Roschitz, they have a general Weinvertel DAC, and then they have one from a special Liud, as they say, at a very special location. And then they've got a Riesling too, because they do grow Riesling in Austria as well. Riesling is much more of a German grape in Europe, but it does well in Austria. It's got a nice dry climate. Gets a little bit more sun than it would in Germany. But Gruner Veltliner is going to be the focus here, and the Riesling is mostly for contrast. Gruner Veltliner is a really interesting grape. You can do a lot with it. It's hardy, but it has a late ripening season, so you can't grow it much further north than Austria. It's got a very peppery flavor to it very often, and you can actually have Gruner Veltliner aged for quite a long period of time if you treat it correctly. So it's very, very cool. It's a very, very cool. It's a cool grape, and it's probably the grape of Austria, for being honest here. It's probably the grape that people in Austria are most identified with. So they got reds too, and we're going to tackle all of them over the coming weeks. But I want to show you the map first. So this is the entire wine region in Austria. You can see it all clusters around the Danube River, the Great Danube, the spine of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And it's really interesting, just by the way, historically, how you can see this intersection. You have right over here, you'd have Budapest, and you have Bratislava right here, and you have Vienna right here. And you just see, like, there's so much mixing. Like, this is Sopot, a big Hungarian wine region, and it's all just super mixed up, even from a couple hundred years ago, 100 years ago, really. So we're talking about Weinvertel today, so most northerly region, and yeah, so let's check it out. All right, so number one, it's this first one, this first Weinvertel. Wow. So first off, the nose was almost a little bit like a Riesling, but the palate, definitely not. This is super sour, but there's a lot of honey flavor in it. A lot of honey flavor. It's almost like a honey lemon tea, is what I would say. There's a real bite with the sourness. It's really delicious. It's delicious. Not much else besides for that, but a little honey lemon never did anybody any wrong. Definitely like it. But I'm thinking that this number two here is going to have a little bit more going on. So let's see. Nose is already a little bit more refined. Mm-hmm. So here's where we start to get the real pepper from the Gruner Veltliner. It's not drastically different. You don't have as much honey, but you have this little peppery vegetal bite to it, and it's nice. It's definitely I think I prefer it to number one. I don't know the price difference between these for what that is worth. Retweet. Let's get this going on Twitter. Let's get it going while I still got it. While I still got Twitter. All right, now the Riesling, Königsberg Riesling. Ooh, so this smells great. This smells like a Riesling for sure. Riesling always has a little bit of a steeliness on the nose, and that's going to happen whether or not you get it in the Finger Lakes, whether or not you get it in Germany. Mm. You know, I hate this because this is it's supposed to be focused on the Gruner Veltliner, but I just love Rieslings. They're my favorite white wine, so I'm already like really enjoying number 3 the most. They're all really nice though, and look at this color. It's a little bit lighter, a little bit less green with the Riesling, you can see, but fairly similar. Anyway, peeps, let's get into the questions, shall we? Shall we get into the questions? Let's get into this stuff. All right. So we got a big backlog here. All right. What does it mean when a man falls in love with a radiant face across the room? It may mean that he has some soul work to do. His soul is the issue. This is a quote, by the way. It's a quote. It's a quote. All right. Just to have it make sense. What does it mean when a man falls in love with a radiant face across the room? It may mean that he has some soul work to do. His soul is the issue. Instead of pursuing the woman and trying to get her alone, away from her husband, he needs to go alone himself. Perhaps to a mountain cabin for 3 months, write poetry, canoe down a river, and dream. That would save some women a lot of trouble. Robert Bly, Iron John, a book about men. And he comments on it. This is a very good point. Men often mistake female beauty for the spiritual value that it channels, confusing an expression of the thing for the thing itself. Until he can connect with higher things directly, he will continue to chase foolishly. Well, I don't see a question here, but I'm actually going to use this as an opportunity to riff off of something. I think he had a question before, but maybe it got kind of deleted in the process. It was a difficult question to answer because he was like referencing a tweet. Anyway, there's something I want to talk about with this though, because this last point here, men often mistake female beauty for the spiritual value that it channels, confusing the expression of the thing with the thing itself. Well, let's talk about for a second, why do we care so much about female beauty? What is it about femininity that's so important for men? Okay, so this is something I've mentioned a little bit in writing, and I'm going to write a lot more about it. It's a major area of exploration for me right now. But this is a very important topic. You look at our world right now. Yeah, we're going deep to start off. And by the way, if you guys haven't read Iron John, I really strongly recommend it. I read it about a year ago today, and it was super. I mean, it's a profound book. It's a profound book. So when we think about making things, when we think about creation, we're very oriented that, men build. Men are builders, right? Men are the ones who are out there conquering. Men are the ones who are constructing. And what is the feminine, right? How does the feminine play a role in that? Now, wise men have always understood that the feminine matters, but it's not really apparent on a material level, right? Which is why in low consciousness societies, they treat women as if they're nothing really but breeding stock, that they don't really offer anything else. Whereas in a higher conscious society, there's a real veneration of women, and not a simping, right? Not simping, but a veneration of women, and an understanding that they provide certain gifts to men, and that they provide a certain level of fortune and inspiration to the man. So what is that all about? Now, any of you guys who are artistic by inclination, you've heard of the concept of a muse, and artists tend to be, if they're serious artists, tend to be a little bit higher consciousness. There's a little bit more integration there. People would actually very often comment that artists have a bit of femininity to them, even if they're quite masculine. At least they understand women. Women are drawn towards them, right? We talk about the integration of a man. But the thing about an artist and the thing about a muse, which is a woman that inspires an artist or inspires a warrior, can inspire anybody really, is that the woman contains some sort of mystery in her. It's a mystery. And I think if you want to look at this on a deeper level, you can look at the masculine as matter, as in physical matter. So the masculine deals with the physical world, and the feminine deals with the etheric world. And because we live in a stupid mainstream society, a very unwise society that doesn't appreciate this stuff, we have diminished the mystery. But the thing is, it's from the mystery, it's from death, right? Women are death, men are life. Men seek death, women seek life. The mystery becomes manifest through the masculine. The feminine becomes manifest through the feminine's gifts become manifest through the masculine. And the masculine inspiration and creation comes manifest through the feminine. And the masculine is constantly seeking this antimatter. How do I put this? This antimatter sort of mystery where it gets the knowledge and wisdom and insight and motivation to actually create. And without that, matter is stale. There's no life to it. It collapses. You know, we look in physics and they say, oh, well, 10% of the universe or 11% is matter. Like the rest of it, you know, have this thing like dark energy, dark antimatter. And I mean, we'll get there. But if you look deeper into this stuff, you start to understand that this exchange between men and women, what is the mystery of life? That's the matter-antimatter combination that occurs. So there's a physical aspect to it, but there's also this etheric aspect to it. It's the merging of the energies. So men will often try to possess a woman because they want to possess that spiritual aspect, but you can't really do that. It doesn't work. And that's a source of frustration for men, whereas a man who understands and sort of allows himself to be inspired by the muse, he's the man who's able to create incredible things. This is like a deep level of exploration, and it's probably a little bit too heavy to go deep off the start with it. But maybe wet your palates a little bit. The masculine and feminine both need each other in this domain. They work together to build and to create. A man has no inspiration to create without a woman, and a woman cannot create without a man, can't manifest without a man. And you see that women who are builders have integrated masculine, and men who are truly visionaries have integrated feminine. It's just how it is, or they have a muse to play that role. All right, next question. Let's go back and revisit these groomers. You guys like the deep stuff? You guys like that? You want me to stick with, you know, how do I get a girl? Do you guys want me to stick with that? Do you want me to stick with how do you say hi to a girl? I can do that too. By the way, nothing wrong with these questions. I'm just, you know, there's a spectrum of questions. Where do you guys want me to go with these? Is this too much? Should I calm it down? Should I start to talk about some red pill truths? Should I start to talk about, hey, did you guys know that women are attracted to high status men? Did you guys know that? I just learned this recently. I was listening to, you know, Rianne Stone's YouTube channel, and I had there's some pretty good insights in there. Yeah, he mentioned that women, so you guys understand, I didn't know this before. women are attracted to men who are higher status than them. It's incredible. It's incredible. I had no idea about that, but um, I watched a couple videos, and yeah, and I started to really understand that finally. Only took about 20 videos, watching 20 videos to understand that. Okay, next next question. Next question. Hello, my friend. Do you have any content on date ideas? I'd like to do something outside the box with my girlfriend that would be considered adventurous. Well, are we there? We still good? All right, cool. There's a little bit of a weird shut off there. Um, so if you live near nature, that's always a really good opportunity if you live near nature. Um, you can go camping, you can go canoeing, you can go hiking, you can go to the beach. Um, a lot of it is, and then you can also look within that sort of, not necessarily going that far afield if you're not as much of an outside person or you're not as much of a nature person. What you can do, what you can do is you can also I like to look for like kind of interesting ideas, interesting kind of combinations. So you can combine a couple different things together. So maybe um, you go to the seaside and then there's some paragliding thing there. So you can do that. Um, it really depends so much on the location, but look around the area and just kind of see what stuff is in the area. Let me put it this way. I'm going to give you a formula rather than give you an exact thing. I'm going to give you a formula. So what I do personally is I first single out an area that I want to go to, that I wanted to check out. Maybe there's one thing there that seems kind of interesting. Maybe there's something with like the environment that seems kind of interesting to me. So I'm just retweeting this. Maybe there's something in that location that is just kind of appealing. And so what I'll do is I'll I'll pick that area and then I'll figure it out from there. And maybe when I'm looking in that area, I'm like, oh, this area actually sucks. There's nothing here. I use Google Maps a lot for this because I'm very spatially oriented. Because you also want to think about the logistics. So you want to see, okay, I'm looking at, we're going to go to this place, and then how long is it to go to this location? You obviously want to have the logistics work with that, not be too outrageous. So I'll see the area and then I'll put some things together. So maybe there's a nice dinner spot. Maybe there's a fun kind of activity. There's like a wolf conservatory nearby. So we're going to do that. But you start with a location and you go and look at the location and then you zoom in. I think it's harder to do it. You can certainly work the other way around where you want to find a specific action item. But again, then you can't really ask me that because you have to think to yourself, what's something kind of cool? So it's really about if you're a curious person, and you can be a curious person if you're not by nature. It's just a matter of training it. Like I use that wolf conservatory example when I was up in Vermont with my wife a couple of years ago. We did skiing and we did, went to a brewery, etc. But I was thinking, well, my wife loves animals and I love Call of the Wild. So maybe do they do dog sledding? And sure enough, I found a conservatory. Is it a conservatory? Is it a conservation location? I don't know. I don't. Conservatories for music, but maybe they have two meanings. At any rate, a place where you had all these kind of well, first they were no chain sled dogs, so they weren't abused or anything. They, it was very much a big extended family, and it was so much fun. I have no doubt the thing that stands out the most of that entire trip was going over there and going on a little sled dog and adventure through the woods, and it was difficult to get to. We had a beat up van, so I would work from that. I would work from that sort of direction, and you're asking for specific date ideas, which is a little bit easier. You just kind of look at a neighborhood in the city. Have you been to this neighborhood yet? Have you been to this nearby town? Go check it out. Use Google Maps and piece it together from there. Where wolves are studying music. Exactly. Yeah, and in cities it's a lot easier because there's so many things to do. Unfortunately, they get kind of eaten up. It might have been fun to do axe throwing, but now it's like the big neckbeard hipster thing to do. So not so fun anymore, perhaps. Okay, let's go to the next question. Hey, Pat, hope you're good, man. Got a question for the Q&A. Got a girl in my co-working space who I did a bit of support on her biz for. She's an Instagram influencer, e-com owner with 500K followers. However, since then, she will often come over and speak to me, laughed at a lot of my jokes, very friendly, etc. When we were chatting, I asked her if she has a partner, and she said it's on and off and complicated. I'm thinking of just asking her for coffee and feeling it out. Then if it goes well, ask her out for night drinks. However, I don't want to overstep my mark. Any advice on how I best play this? Thanks, brother. Well, so when a girl says on and off and complicated, she's basically telling you that she is sexually available, but that don't really push it. So she's kind of saying like, don't if she was the one, if it was on and off and complicated because she didn't like it that it was that way, she wouldn't tell you that, right? Or she would tell you it in a different way. She wouldn't be coming over to you as much. What it seems like in this situation is that the guy that she's been seeing kind of on the way out. Maybe she's attracted to him, but is sort of moving away from the entire thing, and she's trying to let you know that the door's open. The trap here is getting really what's the word? You don't want to be taking her out on formal dates, and this is to the actual main part of your question. She's kind of creating a plausible deniability sort of thing. So if something's going to happen with you guys, it has to just happen. First off. Second off, what you really want to do is just ramp up the sexual tension without necessarily trying to force anything to happen. So the way I would play it is, just kind of tease her about the whole thing and invite her out. These are one of those situations where it can be better if you could invite her out with a couple other people. But the key thing here is that you're not being like on the nose and saying, like, trying to take her out directly on a date. You can't do that because she's kind of saying that she's with a guy, even though that thing's deteriorating. And what she's really looking for is when she says this, she's like, this thing isn't gonna last, and I'm looking for a place to jump to, and maybe I'll jump to you. The big thing here, though, is to view it for what it is, which is a rebound hookup. Don't perceive this as like, yeah, she's going after me as like a keeper, and I should go and try to lock her down. I wouldn't take that path. It would be better to have something fun and casual with her that you sort of fall into with her by just setting up the right circumstances, rather than and then maybe that changes, but to take it that direction. The pressure here is what's really a killer. So avoid all sort of like date talks. It's all just, let's go have fun and do this. Oh, wow, we kissed. Oh, wow, so magical, we kissed. It's like that. All right, next question. I don't know if you've answered this in a stream before, but how do you deal with envy and entitlement? I'm envious of my roommate because he makes more per hour than me, while I have been in school longer than him. Yes, I know how it makes me sound. I guess it's because I'm not doing what I want, but then again, I don't know what it is that I want. Well, I applaud you on the self-awareness, because this is this is something that, if unchecked, can become really nefarious. Envy and resentment. If you have envy and resentment, the biggest thing to check in on, it's not about dealing with it as in trying to say, okay, I don't, shame yourself for feeling this way, or how do I put it? As you kind of indicate at the very end there, the most important thing is that you find out why you feel this way. And it seems like the reason you feel this way is in large part, which is pretty universal, to be honest, that you're not on your edge. Thank you, Jackson, that you're not on your edge. If you guys haven't read my post today, Masculinity and Tension, very important post to read. You're not on your edge. And you probably took a route that you thought was going to give you more status, but ended up really just being a waste of time and money. And then there's frustration at yourself at that then you want to project outward. Whereas actually the resentment and envy is a gift. Now remember, every single time you feel a negative emotion, it's a gift, because that negative emotion is telling you something about yourself. So in this case, you have envy and resentment towards someone who makes more but did less. That's an indication that your assumptions about how you're living are wrong. You're not doing things that serve your higher self, your higher purpose. And so what you can then do is reassess your path. Now you're saying you don't know what to do. Well, a good start can be, well, what do you not want to do? What do you not enjoy doing? What do you want to stop doing? Stop doing it. Stop doing it as soon as is practically possible, and feel it out from there. Generally, when I go through this with clients and whatnot, what we'll do is we'll see, well, what kind of things do you like to do, but you didn't think that you could monetize? Very often what you'll find is that either you do have a skill you can monetize and you just have a limiting belief that won't allow you to do it, or you have a series of skills or sort of ways of thinking, which may be, you may not be a master in them necessarily, but you have a way of synthesizing them together into something very distinct and very unique and very fulfilling. I'll also make one final point on that, which is where you are deficient. If you can fix yourself in that area, you are able to then help other people who are in a similar position. And hey, what do you think I do? Right? Do you think I was always just good with women? Guys who are always good with women have no idea how to teach this stuff, because they don't understand the different steps in a man's psychology. They don't understand the different experiences that a man has emotionally. And so we can't pace them. Can't pace them and can't help move them through it. So it's like, oh, just fucking do it, man. Just go talk to her, right? You just got to do it. I mean, there's a point where you have to push a guy, right? But what's going through his head emotionally that's blocking him? These are important things. So whatever, you get the point. And yes, you could also become a wolf. And these days you can identify as a wolf if you want to identify as a wolf. So it's easier than ever to become a wolf and join the conservatory. Thank you, Jackson. Yeah, there's one in Vermont. All right, let's keep moving here. How many more we got? Just a couple more. Hey, Pat, I have a question for you. You said in the past not to try and look for girls without any psychological, emotional problems. Not to try to look for girls with any psychological, emotional problems, because everyone has them, at least to a lesser degree. When we encounter them in a relationship, we should be clear with the woman we are with that in order for the relationship to continue, they need to take responsibility and work on the problems they have. All good so far, but can we say for sure it is effective most of the time when girls go to therapy? Most of my experiences with therapy have been a lot of talking in circles without much resolution and improvement of emotional issues. How can the women we are with genuinely work on their emotions when therapy seems to have such a sketchy track record of being useful? Thanks. It's a very good question. And oh my goodness. Uh, don't usually talk about it. Don't like to make enemies. Don't like to, don't like to hurt people's feelings. But yeah, most of therapy is bullshit. It's mostly bullshit. And the reason why it's bullshit, here we go. Here's where the drama starts. Is because most therapists are women. Now, here's the context. It's not that women are bad, and it's not that women don't have an ability to help heal. However, if a woman hasn't done the work on herself and fixed problems, aka she hasn't integrated her masculine, then there is no structure for change to occur. And so you have, I'm going to repeat that, this is important. There is no structure for change to occur. So what happens is that you indeed have a lot of this talking in circles, because one woman has an emotion and she shares her emotion, and the therapist empathizes instead of structures. Okay? There are two forms of healing, and to be a master healer, you have to use both, and most people aren't. Most people can't even do one, frankly. The feminine healing, which is unconditional love and compassion and support, and the masculine healing, which is structuring and aligning and creating boundaries. And the better you are at integrating the two of these energies together, the better at healing you are going to be. And most therapists are not. They're all feminine energy. So you can experience, so this is what happens, is that when they go to therapy, they feel better because they feel understood and cared about, and then they leave, and then their life is unstructured again and falls apart. And women tend to have a big problem with this in general, because if they don't have a man in their life, they have a weak man, because masculinity is a structuring force. It is the energy. Okay, I've used this analogy before. If you break your leg, it feels really nice to have, if you're a little kid, it feels really nice to have your mom hold you and tell you that you're going to be, and tell you, comfort you. But you need someone to set that leg straight. You need someone to set that leg straight. And honestly, that person telling you it's going to be okay means more, because that person is fixing things. This is the masculine healing. And of course, we diminish it. Well, men aren't empathetic. They don't understand our lived experience. Well, you know what? Fuck yourself. Because maybe if you had someone who told you that a lot of your lived experience is bullshit, you would do better. It's not to say not to have compassion, but we have to be really aware of when these things go to an extreme. They don't help. And I can give a counter example too. It doesn't help if you are a guy and you're trying to get better and somebody's constantly telling you, you fucked this up, you didn't do this right. Look, I know that there's a lot of, people will come out of boot camp and they'll be grateful because they'll say it toughened them up. And I think that aspects of that are because these guys are so starved for any sort of masculine structure and energy that it's a positive thing. But the reality is that and we've seen this in movies and stuff, there's a point of like firmness and sort of, knowing that the person cares about you, but he's trying to push you past your limits, and sadism. And, what is that? Whiplash, right? That movie a couple of years ago, where the guy was teaching him how to become better, being such a sadistic asshole to him. That is like the masculine without any feminine aspects to it. And it's psychologically brutal. And my contention is that often used in the military because it makes it, you break people down and make them easier to follow orders. So you kind of traumatize them a little bit. So they're more compliant. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a healing process, put it that way. So, so you really have to be more actively involved with the therapy. At the very least, you have to provide the structuring on the back end of the therapy. So she's seeing a therapist, and a lot of these, I mean, I want to be clear about this. A lot of these therapists, it's not that they're stupid people, and it's not that they don't care. It's that they just can't be firm enough when it matters. They don't have it in it themselves. So if you provide a lot of that firmness, she trusts you and you provide the firmness, then she can get some of maybe the empathy and support from the therapist. You're going to have to take this case by case. I recommend everybody go work with Mark Darien. Work with Mark Darien. He's a great therapist. He knows what he's doing. So if you want to get professional therapy. All right. Let's keep going here. And just check out these comments here. The new Wizard of Oz saying, take on more responsibility for all these things if you have delegated them and got bad results. 100%. The more you take responsibility, for the things in your life, the easier it's going to be to overcome them. The easier it's going to be for you to get rid of the resentment, because resentment and envy, these are externalizing. They are externalizing elements. So what that means is that you're looking outside of yourself for the answers. All right. A couple more questions here. Hey, Pat. So I met this girl in April. We were seeing each other casually April through May. Lots of physical chemistry with some signs of alignment on values, too. Not much social media, organic food, skepticism towards modern institutions, metaphysical interests, etc. A great spring fling. She was attending the university in my city, then went back to Hawaii for the summer, where she's from. We've kept in touch lightly, and she's coming back beginning of September. I want to be able to lead and mold the dynamic when she's back and potentially move things forward a bit as I get a better read on her, but I want to make sure I don't scare her off. I'm curious if you have any comments on how to lead things, lend structure, and form to our connection, and be authentic, but in a manner that's fluent to the social context of younger Gen Z girls. She's 20, I'm 5 years older. I'm conscious of how girls, girlfriend groups, and guys too can be skittish about showing vulnerability, honesty, etc. I want to keep being subtle with it, but make sure there's a roadmap to real commitment if I want it. Hope that makes sense. Thank you in advance. Well, yes, thank you for the question. It's a cool situation. I think that you're overthinking it a little bit, because you're thinking really down the line. And what's most important is that once she's back, that you guys just reestablish attraction, that keep things light at first, because you have to always check for this as a man, that you were in a certain state with her, you enjoyed it, she goes away, and so what happens is you enter into a fantasy mode. So you begin to think, this is, yeah, and it could be like this, it could be like this, it could be like this, and you start to build on it. And so sort of in your mind, the relationships move further forward than it has in reality. And you just don't know exactly if she's feeling the exact same way when she comes back. So I would actually recommend, when she comes back, since you've only been in touch lightly, to be, relatively casual, not like so casual as to be, aloof, but that don't put a lot of pressure on the front end. Start to see her again, see what the connection's like, and restart that. And once you get the attraction going, then you're going to have a lot of time on your side. And then when you have time on your side, you can start to move further into these things. And basically you lead her by first you try to get to know her better and you get her hooked in, and then just kind of looking over here at the exact questions. I mean, be authentic. It's like once you know she's in, you get more out of her, and then you share things to match that. There's sort of like a, there's sort of like a paradox in the question, because it's like, and this happens a lot, by the way. I'm not picking on you, but it's like, how do I be authentic? It's like, well, be authentic, right? Share yourself, share what you want. I'm getting the sense that you might go too intense with it. So dial it back a bit and focus just on getting her enjoying her time with you. And a lot of this stuff should happen naturally. And then it's just a matter of holding the correct boundaries. Once she's in, you're creating a vision. You're showing the vision, and see how she buys into it. See how she connects with it. The more buy-in you get from her, the more you know that you can go ahead with it. So I hope that helps. Sean, why do the bros always qualify the girls when asking for advice? What do you mean? Elaborate on that, and I'll answer it. All right, let's see here. Not sure if you talk about this in the past, but your thoughts on a developed man sliding in DMs, or is that a hookup game? No, you can totally slide into a girl's DMs. I mean, a lot of girls are. I'll get to this in a second, Sean. Look, whether you're developed or not doesn't have anything to do with whether you slide into her DMs. You're totally welcome to slide into a girl's DMs. How you do it is what matters. How you do it, what's your intention when you do it? That's what matters. So a lot of the new frontier of game and meeting women is developing a social media account and meeting women through connections on social media. I can't even tell you how many guys are meeting women through social media right now. It was a thing back in the days of Facebook. And then I think what happened was online dating came into the picture. So, you had Facebook like 2004 to 2008, 10. It was obviously around still, but around that time period, we got to like online dating started to really become a thing. Especially by 2011, online dating was really, you had OkCupid. And then by the time you had Tinder, I mean, so what happened was that people had been doing just kind of automatically messaging people, friends of friends on Facebook, and trying to make stuff happen. Online dating kind of threw that to the wayside, because then people were like, I can meet girls outside of my immediate circle. Why should I have to limit myself? That's now coming back, because as we go more decentralized and localized, people are starting to be like, well, actually, most of the girls online are, not high quality. Or, the high quality ones don't stay on very long. I got like 2 weeks to grab them. So, and, the odds are totally skewed. So you're just not getting the kind of quality that you'd want. So they're going back to social media, and Instagram's obviously the most prominent example of this, but it's not just Instagram. You can do it on Twitter. You can do it on any platform. The game's a bit different than it used to be, because back in the days of Facebook, it was actually just using social media to meet someone's extended network. Whereas now it's much more a matter of meeting people who have similar values and beliefs, and who you just like their material, who are not in your immediate circle, because we're having this massive decentralization. And what you're finding from this is a lot of people are in communities, but their communities maybe are kind of jumbled. And so we're almost having a resorting of communities. So point of all that is just to say, yeah, you as a developed man, you probably should slide into girls' DMs. But how you do it matters. How you do it matters. And the same things apply to regular online dating. You don't want to send stupid, insipid messages for like, hey, how are you? Hey, what's up? I get messages like this sometimes. And I'm like, what the fuck is, I mean, probably some of them are bots, but it's like, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? Like, why would I want to respond to this message? You're adding no value. You're not even, so the best thing to do it, and I had an interview with Rubes and Dean Abbott and David on the Arsenal podcast back in April. And that was really good. And we talked about this, and really a way to do it is just you want to comment and you want to engage and post some kind of engaging stuff on what they put out there. And, or in the replies, to respond to them in the replies, and then you can move it to DM. That's the most natural way to do it. Online dating through social media takes a lot of patience and consistency. It is true. It does take work, but you know what? I'll put it this way. You don't have to do it, of course. You can just make a network in real life. You can cold approach girls. But what's the overarching theme here? If you want quality, you got to put work in. Like, there's a lot of people who are, well, if I just get drunk and show up at a bar, I'm going to get a girl. Or if I just like get a online dating account and swipe, I'll get a girl. And that's just unfortunately not how it works. Less and less. So you can pick your poison about where you want to put your work in. Some people prefer to put it on the back end with pre-selection in real life venues. Some people do that, but maybe focus more on social media, elevate it that direction. Other people say, fuck the status game. I'm going to go hit hard reps on the street and go pound sand a little bit. They're all tough approaches. They all get you what you're looking for. They're all the ways that you get the most attractive girls. So pain is coming. And guess what? As a man, if you're not leaning into that, you're not on your edge. So, Sean, to your question, why are the bros always gassing these girls up when they ask for advice? Dude, the way I would say it is that they like the validation from the girl. They like the validation. So they like her to, it's always, it's a classic pickup line. Hey, can I ask your opinion on something? You seem really smart. Can I ask your opinion on something? The reality is that women love flattery. So it works. So why do they do it? They do it because it works. All right. I got 2 questions here, and I got your question, Rudy. I'm going to get to all of them. Pat, I'm in a relationship for about a year now, and I feel that I want to be out of it. Many reasons, values being the main one. I also feel helpless or uneducated about what to do about it. I've never broken up with a girl before, and I also feel a bit codependent because I really don't want to break her heart. The helpless feeling I have surrounding the situation is what prompts me to reach out. I'm not sure if you covered this or similar in any periscopes or masterclass, which I've started going through. Yeah, get the masterclass. Get the masterclass. Because if you like these shows, we got 2 hours of Q&A in that, which are very specifically designed to fill in gaps within the masterclass. People have clarifications on stuff. 18 and a half hours altogether. Okay, 6 modules, each about 3 hours long, 2.5 to 3 hours long. Crazy good stuff. And last part of the pitch, if you get it, it's deducted to coaching. So if you're not sure if you want to do coaching, you're not sure about that investment, get the masterclass. And if you want to do coaching later, you didn't lose any money on that. All right. So pitch finished. To answer the question, it's basically this. If you don't want to be with a girl, if she's draining your energy, but she's making you feel guilty about leaving, this is one of the most classic situations with girls out there. It's one of the most classic dynamics. So you have a girl who knows you're going to leave, knows that you have the higher value. And when I say higher value, it's just, you are not You're the one who's giving up most of your energy in the relationship to her. She keeps you around. If she can't charm you, she keeps you around from guilt, because men have an unconscious desire to be the savior. And yes, this is covered in the master class, although maybe not as directly in this situation. Savior complex as a man is something you have to deal with, because if you don't deal with it, then your boundaries can be easily violated by women. So basically, man, without knowing the full context of everything, without going into it, this is a level of growth for you, because when you refuse to end things with a girl because you feel like, oh, I might hurt her feelings and she's going to be so upset. Well, first off, that's your ego. Oh, she's not going to be able to live without me. It's going to be terrible. Yeah, she's going to live without you. She's going to be okay. Sorry to burst your bubble with that. Take the ego down a notch. She'll survive. She'll survive, first off. And second off, your needs matter more than hers. You can't give her, because you can't even meet her needs if you don't meet your own. And that's why the relationship sucks. I don't know how direct you've been with her about her not meeting your needs. And I don't know if this is something that could be addressed. Maybe there's some construction that could happen here and that the relationship could be saved. But if she really is just not making you happy and you don't see any way that that could occur, you're not doing her a favor by wasting her time. So if you actually care about her, let her go. You care about both of you when you do that action. Oh, Sean, yeah. Okay, I understand what you mean. When they ask for advice, they qualify the girl. She's really smart and not a thought pad. Please help. Yeah, well, I get it. Guys don't want to every guy wants to seem like he, if he didn't make the right decision, they want to make it seem like they at least made an understandable decision. And very oftentimes they did. I mean, and also they're trying to be polite and I think take responsibility. So, if they say, I'm with this girl and she's a dumb bitch and she sucks and I hate her and she's the worst person in the world, what should I do? It's like, well, break up with her, right? I mean, unless you're a loser, break up with her. But when there's a problem and it's like, well, she's beautiful, she's smart, she's caring, but then it's like, it's an understandable dilemma. And I think that they're not lying about it. I think guys are very charitable when it comes to women. They're very charitable when it comes to women. I don't know that women are quite as charitable about men they see, but yeah, I think that's why they do it. Rudy, answer your question. When did you first really start to feel like a man and there was no question about it? How did you first notice and what was the shift? So, I first started to really feel like a man when I took my focus off of my wife, off of women, frankly, in general, and I put it on, I don't want to say just me, although it was put on me. But what it was that, you have this sort of polarity. And this is like the most common thing that happens with relationships, is that the guy wants a certain reaction from the woman. And so by looking at this reaction from the woman, it creates this resentment level frustration. That's not to say that he shouldn't get certain things from a woman, but the point is that he is like focused on her and how she can give him what he wants. And so he's relying on her. It's like he's giving her his power to her, basically. And even if you have a constructive woman, you can't do this you can communicate about your needs, but there's a difference of putting your needs on her. And that can be a conscious or unconscious thing. Maybe you don't communicate it. Very often, not communicating your needs to her is more likely unconsciously to have unconscious expectations of her. But the point of this is that it wasn't until I just was like, okay, I don't really care. And this goes back to the last question. It's like, I'm not interested in participating in this dynamic anymore. What I'm interested in is building this kind of relationship and doing this with my life. And you're either a part of it or you're not part of it. It's kind of like get on the boat or get off the boat. I'm going here. I'm on this direction. I'm on this trajectory. Love for you to join me. You don't want to join me, fuck off. That is when everything shifted. It shifted for both of us. And I think that it's easier for a man to do that on his own, because I had that before. Like, I was on this growth, this self-exploration. But then you get into a relationship, and then, like, you still have that, but then there's this distraction because you have to deal with her needs and what she wants. And so you get kind of pulled in both directions with it. And that's where a lot of, if you succumb to it, then you have like this beta bucks relationship. And if beta bucks, right? And if you don't succumb to it, but you're still somewhat oriented towards it, then you have tension, and not healthy tension. You just have like baseline resentment and problems. So you have to, and I think, honestly, I'll go a little religious on you. I think that there's a lot of value to this sense. People talk about the woman, surrendering to the man. And I agree with that wholeheartedly, but women do that, and women stay that way, and the relationship stabilizes when a woman surrenders to the man, but the man surrenders to God. Okay, when you say God, you can interpret that as your highest purpose, right? It doesn't work when you do it from an ego perspective, which is why so many of these red pill guys are just total fucking idiots and losers, because their entire life is just based around these stupid power games. Good question, Rudy. All right, last question, because my phone's gonna die soon. Relationship question: how do I deal with dating a woman who is much more ambitious than me? Well, she's much more ambitious than you. Why is she much more ambitious than you? What does she want? What do you want? The devil's in the details here. I mean, it sounds as if she is very much in her masculine. She's really ambitious. And maybe you don't want that, but maybe you're drawn to it because you yourself are not strong enough in your own purpose to feel like you can kind of direct yourself. And so what happens is that you unconsciously were drawn to a stronger woman who would give you this support, but you resent it. That's a different question, right? And maybe she's looking for a guy who's going to be in that position. Ambition is different than independence. Ambition is a different quality in a woman. And it's very related to desire for dominance, put it that way. So it's very not only masculine, but it's a little bit of a distorted masculine. Desire to dominate everything around. I don't know the details of what she's ambitious about. She's ambitious about helping animals. Okay, well, I wouldn't use the term ambitious in that case, right? But she may want to make a big impact there. So it's really about like what she wants to become, like big politician. I don't know the situation. But the big question here is, why aren't you as ambitious as her, and why are you drawn to a woman who's ambitious if part of you resents it? Those are where the real areas of introspection I would look in are. Because if you really were super ambitious and felt confident about it, you probably wouldn't care as much. Or you wouldn't be asking the question, because you just wouldn't date a woman like that. So anyway, guys, you're amazing. I love you all. Cheers. And I will see you next week.